In 2013, Nike made a single decision that would cost them $27.5 billion. Not over decades. Not from some catastrophic scandal. From one strategic choice that seemed brilliant at the time. And here's the part that should terrify you. They had all the data. They understood the risks. They were the most sophisticated sports marketing company in human history. They still got it catastrophically wrong. I've analyzed hundreds of billion-dollar decisions across every industry. This Nike story isn't just about missing an athlete. It's about how your expertise can blind you, how past success guarantees future failure, and why the decisions that destroy companies always feel reasonable in the moment. In this video, I'm showing you exactly where Nike's logic broke down. The 3 cascading failures that turned a bad meeting into a generational catastrophe, and why you're probably making a version of this same mistake right now in your own life. Let's get into it. The year is 2013. Nike is unstoppable. They own Jordan, the most valuable athlete endorsement in history. LeBron James is locked in. Everything they touch prints money. They're not just dominant, they're invincible. Then Stephen Curry walks into their headquarters. He's got talent, sure, but he's also undersized, injury-prone, playing a style that doesn't fit the traditional mold. Nike has him on a low-level deal. Contracts expiring. Curry wants more. He wants to be a signature athlete, his own shoe line. Nike says no. Actually, worse than no. They disrespect him. The presentation is half-baked. They misspell his name on materials. They show him shoes designed for other athletes. His father walks out of the meeting. Curry signs with Under Armour instead. And in that moment, Nike doesn't just lose an athlete. They lose the next decade of basketball. Now, most people think Nike just missed out on shoe sales. That's not even close to the full story. Because what happens next should make every single person watching this video question every strategic decision they've ever made. Curry doesn't just become good, he becomes transformational. Within 2 years, he wins MVP. The Warriors win a championship. But here's what Nike completely failed to see coming. Curry's style of play becomes the blueprint for the entire sport. The game fundamentally changes. The three-point era begins. Small, skilled guards become more valuable than dominant big men. And every kid watching basketball stops wanting to be like LeBron and starts wanting to shoot like Steph. Guess what they're all wearing? Under Armour. Here's the first no-way moment that should make you uncomfortable. Under Armour's basketball revenue goes from basically nothing to over $1 billion annually by 2016. Their stock price quadrupled. They go from struggling activewear company to legitimate Nike competitor almost overnight. All because of one athlete Nike didn't think was worth keeping. But it gets so much worse. The deal Under Armour gave Curry? About $4 million per year initially. You want to know what makes this absolutely brutal? That's what Nike was already paying dozens of less influential athletes, guys you've never heard of, guys who never moved a single shoe off a shelf. The money wasn't the problem. Nike's ego was. And right here, you need to ask yourself, where in your life are you making decisions based on ego instead of reality? Where are you so convinced you're right that you're not even considering you might be catastrophically wrong? Because that's exactly where Nike was, and that's exactly where billion-dollar mistakes get made. Now, you might be thinking, okay, they missed one endorsement deal. How does that equal $27.5 billion? Stay with me, because this is where you see how one bad decision cascades into total strategic collapse. First, Nike loses the entire youth basketball market, not for a year, for a generation. Curry becomes the most influential player for kids aged 8 to 18. That's the demographic that determines brand loyalty for life. These aren't customers Nike lost temporarily. These are kids who formed their entire athletic identity around a competitor brand. They'll be buying Under Armour for the next 40 years. Second, Nike loses critical momentum internationally. especially China and Southeast Asia. And here's why this matters more than you think. Curry's game translates perfectly overseas. He's skill over size, teamwork over individual dominance, accessible stardom over genetic freakishness. Asian markets embrace him completely. Under Armour establishes serious presence in Nike's most important growth regions, not because they're better at marketing, because they have Curry. Third, and this is where the damage becomes permanent, Nike loses the innovation narrative in basketball footwear. For the first time in decades, serious athletes start asking, what does Curry wear? Performance matters again. Not hype, not celebrity, actual game improvement. And Nike isn't the answer anymore. Here's the brutal math. Direct revenue loss from not having Curry's shoe line over the next decade, $8 to $10 billion. Indirect market share loss as customers shift to competitors, $12 to $15 billion. Brand value depreciation in key demographics and regions, $7 to $9 billion. Total conservative estimate, $27.5 billion. And before you think this is just about Nike, before you think this doesn't apply to you, let me tell you what this is really about. This is about how dominant players lose their dominance. This is about how the smartest people in the room make the dumbest decisions. This is about how you can have all the information and still completely misread the moment. Because Nike didn't just have data, they had the best data, the best scouts, relationships with every team, agent, and coach in the league. More information about athlete marketability than any organization in history. And they still got it wrong. Why? Because they were optimizing for the past, not the future. Their entire model was built on finding the next Jordan, the next physical specimen who could dominate through sheer athletic superiority. They wanted someone who looked like a superhero, someone whose highlight reel made kids think, that's impossible, that's superhuman, that's not like me at all. Curry was the opposite. He looked normal. He played smart instead of spectacular. His game was replicable. That's what Nike missed. And here's what you need to understand. They didn't miss it because they were stupid. They missed it because they were successful. Their past wins convinced them they knew what wins looked like in the future. Classic trap. And you're probably in it right now. Think about your own field. What did success look like 10 years ago? Are you still evaluating opportunities based on those criteria? Because that's exactly what Nike did. They kept looking for 1995 Michael Jordan in a 2013 world that had completely changed. The game was shifting. The hero worship era was ending. Athletes weren't just entertainment anymore. They were accessible role models who broke down their skills on social media and made excellence feel achievable. The participation era was beginning. Curry was built for that world. Nike was still living in the old one. And here's where it gets truly painful. Nike eventually realized their mistake. They threw money at Kevin Durant. They redesigned their basketball division. They went hard after every rising star. But the damage was done. They'd lost the narrative. They'd revealed they could be beaten. Every athlete negotiation became harder. Every brand partnership required more money. Every market expansion faced tougher competition. The aura of invincibility was gone. If you're finding this valuable, subscribe to the channel. I break down billion-dollar strategic failures every week, and the patterns repeat across every industry. Understanding how the best screw up is how you avoid screwing up yourself. Now here's the brutal irony. Nike created the very system that allowed them to fail. For decades, they'd been so dominant they could lowball athletes. Where else were those athletes going to go? Reebok? Adidas? Those weren't real threats in basketball. Nike got complacent, arrogant, convinced their brand alone was worth more than any individual athlete. Curry proved them wrong. He cracked open a door that dozens of other athletes and companies would walk through. And you know what the most dangerous part of this story is? The decision to let Curry walk wasn't stupid. It was logical, based on everything Nike knew and believed about sports marketing. Which means the next $27.5 billion mistake is being made right now, by some other dominant company using perfectly reasonable logic that will look absurd in hindsight. So what's the real lesson here? What's the framework that prevents you from becoming Nike? Your past success doesn't predict your future relevance. Nike was evaluating 2013 talent using 1995 criteria. When the fundamentals of your industry shift, your evaluation system must shift with it. Otherwise, you keep selecting for the wrong characteristics. You keep looking for yesterday's winners while tomorrow's winners walk past you. Ego is the most expensive mistake you can make. Nike's arrogance in that meeting cost them more than any failed product ever could. Respect costs nothing. Disrespect can cost everything. Every interaction is an opportunity to win or lose the future. Nike chose to lose. The market always punishes complacency. Nike assumed they were unbeatable. That assumption created the vulnerability. The moment you think you cannot lose is the moment you've already lost. And here's what should keep you up at night. The most catastrophic mistakes look reasonable at the time. You can have all the information, all the expertise, all the resources, and still completely misread the moment if you're optimizing for the wrong variables. Nike had everything except the right perspective. They saw Curry through the lens of what worked before instead of what would work next. That's not a Nike problem. That's a human problem. That's your problem. So ask yourself, where in your life are you making decisions based on past success instead of future reality? Where are you so convinced of your expertise that you're not questioning your assumptions? Where are you disrespecting opportunities because they don't fit your established model? Because that's where your $27.5 billion mistake is hiding. In the decision that feels smart, in the rejection that feels justified, in the pattern you're not questioning. The decision that cost Nike $27.5 billion wasn't a decision to fail. It was a decision to stay the same when everything around them was changing. Don't make that decision. If you found this valuable, make sure you're subscribed and hit the like button. Drop a comment telling me what industry you think is making this exact mistake right now. And for another breakdown of massive corporate failures that changed entire industries, watch this video next.